Now let us see what are all the fiscal reforms made. What do you mean by fiscal? Fiscal is nothing but talks about the public finance. That you will learn in your 12th standard. Fiscal is a new word derived from the Latin word which means it talks about the public finance. That is the government expenditure, the government revenue, the government debt and other things. So that is called fiscal. So what are all the reforms made in the government expenditure, revenues, government debt and other things? That we are going to learn in the fiscal reforms. Fiscal is the Greek word. It talks about finance of government. That is called public finance. And it is the key element of the stabilization of economy, isn't it? So the government expenditure, government revenue, the tax, government debt, everything is very, very important for the nation's economic development. And the reduction of fiscal deficit. The word deficit we have used to study in budget, isn't it? What do you mean by deficit? Deficit means shortage of the revenue is called a deficit. Fiscal deficit means if the fiscal expenditure is more than fiscal revenue, it is called fiscal deficit. So, to reduce the fiscal deficit by 3% of the GDP, that is the fund ban suggested by the fund ban policies. So, what are the things they have done to reduce the fiscal deficit? First one, the government expenditure are reduced and the augmenting of revenues, increasing, how to revise or how to increase the revenues and reversing the trend of direct taxes to total revenue. How can we increase or how can we collect the direct taxes? Because tax is the only source of revenue to the government. So, how can we implement the direct taxes? Thereby, how can we get the revenue of the government? And also curbing the conspicuous consumptions, unnecessary consumption. Curbing means eliminating. So, by these things, we can reduce the deficit. And also, they have made some important policies to correct the imbalance. Imbalance means expenditure is more if revenue is less, it is called a deficit. So, to correct the imbalance, they have initiated some implementation, that is some policies. First one is reducing the subsidy on fertilizers. Because the people by giving the subsidies, they are paying less amount to the government and they are enjoying, thereby they are not doing the work proper because they are getting in the less amount of money they can get in the fertilizer. So they are not concentrate on the agricultural field, so they reduce the subsidy of fertilizer. Abolition of subsidy on sugar. First they gave subsidy for sugar also, then they eliminate. And disinvestment of shares. What do you mean by disinvestment? I already told you, if a government has started a private sector, public sector, while I am talking about that, teaching about that, I told you. So if the government has the shares on more than 51%, it is considered to be the public sector, isn't it? So to enhance the efficiency of the private sector, to enhance the production of the sector, sometimes what would the government do? The government withdraws some shares from the public sector. Sometimes it will take 10-11% of shares from that particular industry. Those shares will be sold to private sector. Then it will become private sector. Isn't it privatization or transfer of ownership? I already told you. That is disinvestment of self. So by doing this, it can get the revenue, isn't it? For these things, the government is spending the revenue. By making these expenditure, the government is spending the revenue. So while it constrains its imbalance in the fiscal deficit. So, to correct the imbalance, the government has reduced the subsidy for fertilizer, abolished the subsidy of sugar, and it also taken back some sales from the public sector. By doing all these things, it can get some revenue or it can reduce the some expenditure. By that, it will increase, correct the imbalance. And then, next one we are going to see the GST, Goods and Service Tax. GST, Goods and Service Tax, is introduced in the year 2017 on 29th March. But it is implemented after 2 months, that is, it comes into effect from July 1st, 2017. The Modi government only introduced this GST, Goods and Service Tax. It is a tax levied when a consumer is availing a goods or service or consuming a goods or service. For example, if you are going to purchase a thing from the shop, you have to pay tax. So the tax is included in the price of the particular commodity. It won't be collected separately. It is included in the price itself. If you are purchasing any goods, if you are getting any service, then you have to pay for that. That payment is included a tax. That is called GST. Why it has been introduced? It has been introduced to replace the indirect taxes. What are all indirect tax? Sales tax, commercial tax are all called indirect tax. Estate duty, those tax are called indirect tax. So to replace all the indirect taxes, they introduce a one-point tax or single tax, that is GST. Before that, we have VAT, that is value added tax. Value added. What do you mean by this value added? For example, while you are purchasing a raw material, the tax is levied for the raw material. And if you have complete in the half unfinished goods and you are giving to somebody else, then it will become a finished goods. So while he is purchasing from you, he has to pay because that your good is raw material for the next person. So he has to pay some tax for that. So after completing all the goods, after completion of the goods, he has to sell it to the customer. There, while the consumer is buying that, he has to pay the tax. So, for one product, the tax is levied on various stages. Added. The tax value will be added by stage. That is called value added tax, that is VAT. It is called multi-point tax. So, to remove all these things, it is introduced in the year 2017. And it is called one-point tax or single tax. And the main motto or the main objective, main aim for implementing this tax system is one nation, one market, one tax. At the time of purchase only, the tax will be levied. It is, otherwise it won't be levied on stage by stage. That is Goods and Service Tax, GST. What are all the advantages of GST? Removing cascading tax effect, that means multi-point of tax effect, isn't it? I already told you. So to remove that, they implement GST, and as I said, it is a single point tax, higher threshold for registration. Usually, if industry is starting, we have to do some procedure. At every point of time, you have to submit your commercial tax and other things. So those things were removed in the GST, and it is also encourage to small business people. And online simple procedure, as I said already, Digital India system, there is no requirement of submission of hard copy documents. So online simpler procedure under GST system, and it defined treatment for e-commerce, isn't it? It encouraged the digital e-commerce, and it increased the efficiency of logistics, and it also regulate the unorganized sector. So these are the advantages of GST. So till we have learnt fiscal reforms, then the last one we are going to see monetary and the financial sector reforms. Monetary means it talks about the banking sector. Fiscal, I told you, it talks about the government expenditure, public finance, government revenue, government expenditure, government tax and other things. Monetary and physical sector reforms talks about the banking sector. Monetary related to bank and a financial institution also. So, what are the reforms were done in the monetary sector, that is banking sector? First one is interest rate and nationalizing the structure of lending rates. So, what is the rate of interest? It should be followed, because all the commercial banks comes under the control of RBI. You all know that, Reserve Bank of India. It is the head of all the commercial banks. So following the rules and regulations given by the RBI, all the commercial banks, they fix the interest rates and also the rates for lending loans. So under this policy, some system were followed by the bank sectors. The first one is the reserve requirements. Under the reserve requirements, we have two types. One is SLR, the another one is CRR. SLR, statutory liquidity rate. CRR, cash reserve ratio. Statutory liquidity. What do you mean by liquidity? Liquidity means cash. SLR means the fraction of the total demand and time deposits of the commercial banks in the form of specified liquid asset. That is, a particular amount of cash should be kept with the commercial banks every day to meet the withdrawal of fixed deposits and other things. That means as an amount, specified amount, ஒரு குறிப்பிட்ட அளவு பணத்தை பேங்க் எப்பவும் என்ன செஞ்சுருக்கணும், கையில் மணி ஃபார்மேட்டில் வச்சுருக்கணும். For example, I have deposited 2 lakhs rupees for a time period of 2 years. So today is the maturity time. So I am going to take my money from the bank. While I went to the bank manager said that he didn't have enough money with him. Is it fair to ask him to ask me to come on the next day? No, isn't it? So specified amount should be kept with the bank in the form of liquid cash. That is SLR. And the CRR is cash reserve ratio. That is the fraction of the deposit with the RBI. That is, the commercial banks kept some amount of money with the Reserve Bank of India in the name of their bank. For example, if it is a state bank, the state bank has to keep some money with the RBI in the form of SBI. SBI பேரில் RBI கிட்ட கொஞ்சம் பணத்தை அது என்ன செஞ்சு வைக்கணும், டெபாசிட் பண்ணி வைக்கணும், கேஷாக ரிசர்வ் பண்ணி வச்சுருக்கோம். தட் இஸ் CRR. So these three things are related to banking system. What is the reforms made in these things? First it was 38.5%, that is SLR rate. ஒரு பேங்க் வந்து 38.5% பணத்தை என்னவா வச்சுருக்கணும், கேஷ் ஃபார்மேட்டில் வச்சுருக்கணும். இந்த பேலன்ஸ் மணி அவங்க என்ன செஞ்சுருவாங்க, அவங்களுடைய மெயின் பிரான்ச்சில் கொண்டு போய் ஹேண்ட் ஓவர் பண்ணிடுவாங்க. எவ்ரி டே தே வில் ஹேண்ட் ஓவர் தியர் டோட்டல் கலெக்ஷன். ஸோ இந்த டோட்டல் கலெக்ஷன் தே ஹாவ் டு கீப் 38.5% in their hand in the form of money. First they fixed. Now after the reforms, the percentage has been reduced to 25%. 38.5 இருக்கணுங்கிறத என்னவா குறைச்சாங்க, 25% கையில் லிக்விட் ஃபார்ம் ஆஃப் கேஷ் இருந்தால் போதும்னு சொன்னாங்க. அதே மாதிரி சிஆர்ஆர் இட் ஹாஸ் பீன் இன்க்ரீஸ்ட். 3% இருந்ததை 5% இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணாங்க. These two suggestions were given by the Narasimha Committee in the year 1991. And this is the first one, and second one is interest rate liberalization. The RBI controlled the interest rate on the payable on deposit, and it has also fixed the rate for the loans. So interest rate freedom கொடுத்தாங்க, the government only fix. And the third one is private sector, public sector, private sector and foreign banks, and elimination of administration constraints. So there is no restriction on administration, because there are so many public banks are there, private banks are there, foreign banks are there. If you have seen public banks in Patina, SBI, KVP, TMB na public bank. Private banks in Patina, HDFC, ICICI, இதெல்லாம் private banks. Foreign banks அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா எஸ் பேங்க் அப்படின்னு ஒன்று இருக்கும், பேங்க் ஆஃப் இங்கிலாந்து, இதெல்லாம் ஃபாரின் பேங்க்ஸ். ஸோ ஆல் தீஸ் அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் இஸ் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இட் இஸ் ரெஸ்ட்ரிக்டட், நவ் இட் ஹாஸ் அ கிரேட்டர் ஃப்ரீடம். அண்ட் தென் they gave many license to open the branches. The RBI gave many licensing policy to rationalize the branch network. So wherever the branch has willing to start a branch, it can start. And they also gave the freedom to relocate the branches. So this place is not well for us, good for us, we want to relocate our branch, or we want to open a new branch. So the government is giving all the license and other things. And they also give guidelines for opening the new private banks also. And then last one is new accounting norms and rules regarding the classification of assets and provision of the bad debt. They were introduced in tune with the Narasimha Committee report. Say they all discussed everything. The Narasimha Committee only, it suggested many ideas to bring the reforms in the monetary and the financial sector. So these are the things we found development experiences in India after independence. So in various fields we found reforms: agricultural, industrial, trade, fiscal, monetary, and all the field it got reforms. The new ideas, new policies were implemented. Thus India experienced development in the various sector by implementing various policies. Within this, we come to the end of this lesson. So as I said, you have to read the lesson, only then you can understand. Thank you, girls.